Hi guys, Purple Ella here, and today I'm going to talk about autism and anxiety. So, a lot of people with autism suffer with anxiety. I am definitely one of them. So what is anxiety? Anxiety, for me, is a feeling that things aren't right, things are going to go wrong, and I can't stop it. So I have lots of different kinds of anxiety. I'm going to tell you about them now. I have social anxiety. So when I'm spending time with other people, I am constantly worried that I'm getting it wrong, which is probably based on a history of actually getting it wrong because I'm autistic. So when I'm spending time with people, I'm in my head, I'm thinking about what I'm saying, whether I'm saying the right thing, whether I'm saying the right amount, whether I'm listening enough, whether I'm talking enough, whether I'm interesting, whether they're interested. And then after I've been with the person, when I go away, I really massively overanalyze the time that I've spent with them and what I've said and how they reacted and whether or not actually they spent the entire time thinking I was a total idiot. And in fact, I used to actually quite often send a text message to whoever I'd spent time with apologising for myself. So I'd be like, oh, lovely lunch today, sorry that I was me, please forgive me and like me anyway, love Ella. And I actually thought that this was a good thing to do, covering all my bases. I don't actually do that anymore because it's weird. So social anxiety, massive problem, causes me problems nearly every single day because every single day involves some kind of social contact for me. The other kind of anxiety I get is practical anxiety. Will whatever I'm trying to do go wrong, and in what way will it go wrong, and how disastrous will that be? So for example, if I am baking a cake for a present for someone, will I have all the right ingredients? Will I make it right? Will I burn it? Will I give them food poisoning? Oh my goodness, I'm not just giving my friend a cake, I'm giving them a nasty case of salmonella, and then they're going to hate me, and then they won't be my friend anymore. You can see practical anxiety really can quite quickly spiral out of control. I also have what I call health and safety anxiety, otherwise known as, am I going to die in this situation? So whether that's travelling in a car, walking down the street, something maybe a bit more adventurous like going on a fairground ride, I am constantly evaluating the situation for all the possible ways in which I could have an accident or seriously harm myself. So if I'm on a fairground ride, the first thing I'm doing when I'm sitting on a fairground ride is I'm thinking, are those bolts done? I can see some bolts there. Are they done up tightly? Yeah, they look like they're done up tightly. And then I'm thinking, well, I mean, it must be a safe ride, because if it wasn't a safe ride, they wouldn't be letting people on it. But that said, there's always a first time, isn't there, for any kind of an accident. So then I'm thinking about what the ride does and at which point in the ride it would be worse for the carriage that I'm sat in to go spinning off into the field that the fairground ride is in, with me still inside it, spiralling off of the ride. At which point would the worst point for that to be? So really, rather than enjoying the fairground ride, I am tolerating the fairground ride, waiting for it to end and hoping to survive the experience. So that is my am I going to die health and safety anxiety. And then everything in between also kind of comes with a bit of anxiety. So if you just imagine that basically from the moment I open my eyes in the morning to the moment I close them to go to sleep at night, I have a low level of anxiety covering every aspect of my day. You can imagine what it's like to live inside my crazy little head. So now that I have the autism diagnosis, I begin to recognise a little bit more why I'm anxious. There's an underlying level of anxiety associated with the fact that my needs as someone on the autistic spectrum prior to diagnosis were not being met, and that left me feeling a lot more anxious than I do now that I'm meeting my needs. So to help anyone in a similar position, I'm going to tell you what it is that I do to deal with my anxiety on a day-to-day basis. So the general all the time anxiety I deal with by first of all making sure that my sensory needs are met. So I'm very sensitive to noises. I'm the kind of person that if I'm walking down the street and a motorbike comes revving past me, I'm going to jump a mile and then look around hoping no one's noticed that I've done that. So now when I go out, I generally wear some noise cancelling headphones, listening to music or white noise, or even sometimes just wearing the headphones to reduce the level of background noise, and that makes the whole experience just so much more pleasant for me. I also make sure that I'm not overstimulated. I get very easily overstimulated by social contact and those kinds of experiences, so I actually spend quite a lot of time now at home on my own, making sure that I have got enough rest time in between my social experiences to feel calmer. I also use a lap weight, which is basically a big bag full of beads, heavy beads, that sits on my lap, and if I'm feeling overstimulated, I'm not sure exactly of the science behind why, but it helps me to feel calmer. So the other thing that I do to deal with that low level general anxiety is I have a very tight daily routine. So I actually have this written out on a piece of paper stuck in my kitchen for day to day, but basically, say in the mornings I get up, I do my yoga, I help get the children up, I make packed lunches for the day ahead, I deal with the things that I need to do for my cat, Katsu, and then I take 10 minutes to myself, I walk the children to school, I come home, I have a cup of tea, then I have a chunk of time in which I do whatever I need to do. I have lunch, then I have another chunk of time in which I do whatever I need to do, then I pick up the children from school, then I make tea, and as you can see it goes on that I know what I'm doing at each certain point in the day, which means I don't get time to worry about what I should be doing or whether I'm going to die today. So I have a routine. The other thing that I do is I try to think like Spock. I try to think like a Vulcan. So for those of you that aren't Star Trek fans, first of all, it's on Netflix at the moment, so start watching. And secondly, Vulcans are logical thinkers, not emotional thinkers. So what I do is I take something I'm worrying about and I try and think through to the absolutely logical conclusion of what will actually happen. So let's say I'm worried because I'm going out to meet a friend and I've got to find a parking space. This is a common worry of mine because I am bad at parking. So I get very anxious about this, but logically, if I don't find a parking space near where I'm meeting my friend, I can drive as far as I need to find that parking space, the parking space that I can cope with parking in. Absolute worst case scenario, I don't find a parking space at all, I can just drive home and I can phone my friend, and yes, it's rude, but I've got understanding friends, and I can phone my friend and I can say, look, I really tried to come today, but I couldn't find a parking space, and rather than letting myself get anxious, I just came home. So that is thinking logically rather than catastrophizing that if I don't find a parking space I'm going to stress and I'm going to have a car accident and my friend's going to hate me forever, and all the ways in which my emotional brain tells me that things are going to go wrong. I go, Vulcan would think like this, and that helps me stay calm. So those are the things that I'm doing sort of every single day just to generally keep myself calmer. Then I have kind of more emergency measures. So sometimes my anxiety becomes so out of control that I really just need to do what I need to do to get it back under control in order to avoid a meltdown. So if I'm feeling like that, which will usually happen if I've been really, really busy for a few days or lots of things have gone wrong one after another, if I'm in that feeling really out of control kind of place, the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to look at my diary and I'm going to cancel any social commitments or practical commitments that I've got that I don't absolutely have to do, to give myself some space and time to be at home and pull myself back together. So once I've done that, I'm going to find activities to do that make me feel calm. So I'm going to go for a nice long walk somewhere peaceful on my own, or I've got a really awesome Doctor Who colouring in book, and just sitting and doing the colouring in really calms me down. Or I really quite like playing Candy Crush. Now I know that is really mindless and stupid, but something about just making the sequences I find makes me feel quite calm. Or if it's really not possible for me to find enough space to do what I need to do, even if I can just get 15 minutes while my husband looks after the children, to go upstairs, sit in my bedroom, close the curtains, turn down the lights, just be calm every day for 15 minutes during that period when I'm really struggling, that'll really help me too. So let's say I've tried all of my strategies and then I'm really not feeling calm enough. Ultimately, the final thing that I will do is I will take a sedative. So these were prescribed to me by the consultant who diagnosed me with autism. This is clonazepam, and it's a sedative which is quite fast acting, so I can take it if I'm feeling very anxious and like I might have a meltdown. I'll take one of these and within about 15 minutes I'll feel really calm, and that calmness will stay with me for most of the day, I find. And then quite often after that, then I can start to implement the strategies again and get back to an equilibrium. Now, I'm not recommending taking sedatives because I'm not a medical professional or an autism expert. I'm just mentioning for me, and there's 10 here and I've had them for a year and I've only taken 3. So it's a really emergency measure, but I would rather take a sedative than have a meltdown. So that's my final strategy. So I hope that this has been helpful and that you don't all now think I am totally mental. And if you are enjoying my videos, I'm going to aim to upload one every month. So subscribe to my channel and don't miss a thing.